everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari A to Z Flashback, a series of short playthroughs of the 150 games that make up Atari Flashback Classics for Nintendo Switch. Today's game is Millipede, which was released in 1982 by Atari and actually published by Namco in Japan as well. I didn't know that before. This was the sequel to Centipede, as the name suggests, and it was designed to provide more of the same but with a bit more variety. So it was a little bit more difficult, there was a greater variety of things to shoot that did more different things, and it was also an early game to incorporate a mechanic that got used quite a bit in subsequent Atari games, some of which we've already seen on this series. So it provided the opportunity to start a game at a more advanced level of difficulty with a higher starting score. However, if you started a game in that way, you could only register your high score on the high score table if you scored enough points to earn an extra life on top of your starting score. So you couldn't just cheat your way to the top of the high score table like you could with the warps in something like Crystal Castles. So this was ported to Atari 2600, Atari 8-bit, Atari ST, and later the NES version, with the Famicom version that the NES version was based on, developed by HAL Laboratory. There was also an Atari 5200 version developed, very similar to the Atari 8-bit version, as you might expect, but this was never released for one reason or another. So let's go play the arcade original of Millipede.
Okay, here we are with Millipede, the sequel to Centipede, and a game which my mother used to play anytime me and my dad and my brother pissed her off. She got very good at Millipede. You know what those men are like. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen Centipede on this series, so, I mean, a lot of the stuff that applies to Centipede also applies to Millipede. We've got things like the trackball control, we've got the ability to rapid fire by holding down the fire button, which was a very nice feature, considering we were still in the age where a lot of games required you to actually hammer on the fire button in order to shoot rapidly. But we've got additions to the formula as well. So we've got things like the DDT that you can blow up, and anything caught in that scores you additional points. We've still got that bloody spider. Now this is an addition to the formula. These waves of enemies floating down the screen. So the more of those you kill in succession, the more points you get for each one. So that's, in many ways, a sort of early example of a kind of chain bonus or a combo bonus. We've got the earwigs up there. Poisoning mushrooms, so if the Millipede hits one of the poison mushrooms, it will immediately come charging down to the bottom of the screen. Shooting a worm there slows everything down for a few seconds. So that's almost like a power-up. We got these dragonflies that create mushrooms on their way down the screen. And kill you, obviously. But yeah, sort of the net effect of all the additions to Millipede was a game that's recognisable and similar to its predecessor, but much more frantic, much more to think about, a lot more in the way of things to pay attention to as you were playing. And it's a really fun game, one of Atari's finest from the era, certainly. And the home ports were very good as well. We had the Atari ST version, which was the version my mum played. And yeah, that was an extremely competent port. In fact, one might argue that it was one of the few examples of an arcade port that was maybe even slightly superior to the original. In terms of presentation, anyway. I can't remember if you could play that version with a mouse. I think you could. Because that would have made a lot of sense, wouldn't it? So converting trackball games to mouse was quite a common thing to do. Now, you may have noticed there that some of the mushrooms withered and died, and then a bunch more appeared. Apparently the pattern they do that in is related to Conway's Game of Life, if you've ever come across that, sort of the simulation of cells multiplying and dividing and feeding on each other and that sort of thing there. So yeah, they made use of that in this game just to kind of shake up the playfield every so often. So in Centipede you sort of stuck with that static playfield that just sort of gradually changed over time according to the things you were doing. But in this one it sort of deliberately remixes the playfield every few stages just to keep things interesting. Okay, now I mentioned in the intro that this is an early game to offer you the opportunity to start at a higher score and a higher difficulty level. Now, also, as I mentioned, it will not allow you to put your high scores in unless you earn an extra life from one of those harder difficulties. So in order for my score starting at 30,000 to be registered on the high score table, I need to bump it up to at least 45,000 points. Which is not unreasonable. That's not a huge distance away from where we start, but it is a challenge, particularly considering the increased difficulty we've got here. So we've got 2 spiders, we've got a lot more in the way of things falling down from the top of the screen. We've got all this nonsense happening. But let's see if we can achieve that. I do like the use of sound in this game. There we are, there's an extra life, so we're now eligible for a high score. And there goes the changing mushrooms pattern again. Yeah, as I was saying, I really like the use of sound in this. So you can sort of immediately identify the things that are on screen by the sounds that they're making. And once you learn to recognise all those sounds, you can really get a feel for the tactics you need to use, how you need to avoid them, all that sort of thing. Might even get a second extra life at this rate. Exciting. Probably not though. Oh my god. Ah! Oh, just short of it. Look at that. Look at that. That's extremely disappointing, is what that is. But I can put my name in because I am eligible for a high score. That's nice. All right, let's have one more go. Maybe a couple more goes because I like this game. All right, starting from the beginning again this time. Starting from a slightly more sedate pace. This is probably going to seem extremely easy compared to what we've just dealt with. So one thing you might notice as well is the fact that the screen scrolls in this. So at the conclusion of each level, or when you take out one of the bugs that flies diagonally, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be offhand, but yeah, take out one of the bugs that flies diagonally, the screen will scroll down by 1 mushroom height. And every so often, when it scrolls, you will reveal a new DDT on screen. So if you completely use all those DDTs immediately, whether it's accidentally or deliberately, you'll eventually get some more. There's a maximum of 4 of those will appear on screen at once. And so they will eventually come back. You just need to take advantage of the mechanics in such a way that... Oh no, it's this situation again. Die! Ah, victory at last. There is an achievement in Atari Flashback Classics for catching the entire Millipede in a block of DDT, and I have no idea how that's possible. I'm sure it is possible. It just seems like something that would be extremely difficult to do. I mean, I've attempted it a few times, but never quite been able to manage it. Oh, I hate it when they get down the bottom. Ah! Death. I actually got a fairly respectable score here, considering we started from scratch. I'm quite pleased with that. Obviously, it's nowhere near enough to... Oh, no! Obviously, nowhere near enough to get into the high score table, because that starts at 52,000, but, well, another go. Let's play again. See, I got the spider with the DDT there, and doing that made the spider worth 1,800 points, rather than 300. And as in Centipede, as someone helpfully pointed out in the comments last time, the scoring of the spider is based on how close it is to you when you kill it. So you take a bigger risk, you get more reward for it. So classic arcade game, risk and reward format. Ooh, that was unnecessarily close. I think the big challenge for both this and Centipede is knowing exactly what you should focus on at any given time. Like, obviously you need to pay attention to things like the spider, otherwise that happens. But you also kind of want to get through the stages quickly. You want to try and defeat the Millipede, because after all, that is the reason that you're here. But then you have stuff like the earwig creating the poison mushrooms, and this ladybird thing making the flowers that you can't destroy, and the worm that slows everything down. There's just so much to think about. It's just a great example of sort of the design philosophy behind arcade games at this time. So yeah, fond memories of this game, like I've said before, and a game I very much enjoy playing to this day. Oh no! Oh no! That's how you waste a worm, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, one more go. This one probably is the last go. Right, we'll start from the beginning again. I always feel slightly dirty taking advantage of any... Oh, you start at a higher level and have some free points. In theory, if you get that far in the game without taking advantage of that function, you would have a higher... You would have a higher score. So certainly that's the case in games with more explicit levels. So if we look forward to later Atari games releases, like stuff like Clax and Zybots and that sort of thing, in the case of those games, if you started on higher levels, if you took the time and effort to get to those higher levels starting from the beginning, you would have a higher score than the bonus you would get for starting the whole game at that higher level. But it was just a way for kind of veteran players to be able to jump straight to the more difficult stuff without having to play stuff that was beneath them, I guess. Or just people who wanted a... Oh, damn it! Or just people who wanted a slightly stiffer challenge, I guess. Oh my god! Yeah, I'm losing my concentration now. I think we will make this the last attempt for now. Or will we? No, we will not. We will make this one the last attempt. I was so unhappy with that effort there. I just don't want to leave... Oh, I could have got that whole Millipede with the DDT there, and I just completely failed to take advantage of the tactical opportunity that presented itself. I am very angry with myself right now. Oh well. I like how this game shifts colour palettes while you play as well. I've mentioned before on the various Atari A to Z series that sort of early arcade games, a lot of them succeeded in making a new colour palette feel like a real kind of achievement. So in the way that seeing a new level of a game that sort of made more advanced use of pixel art and backgrounds and so on, in the way that you got pleasure from seeing a new level, things that you hadn't seen before. In these early games, just shifting the colour palettes would make you feel like you were having some sort of new experience. And we see that in all sorts of games from the period. Not just Atari games either. So, over on the Atari A to Z series about 8-bit games, we've seen things like Jeff Minter's Attack of the Mutant Camels, which makes really beautiful use of colour. And again, the reward for getting to a new level is not different background scenery, not different enemies, not different music, not different sound effects, but no, just a new colour palette. Oh, that was satisfying. Help! God, those E-Bigs are... No! This is exhausting. And I'm dead. Oh well. Okay, yeah, let's call it a day there before my brain melts. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please help out the channel by leaving a like or a comment and subscribing. New episodes of Atari A to Z are on Tuesdays and Atari ST A to Z on Thursdays. Check out atariatoz.wordpress.com for a full archive. Do please also check out my other projects moegamer.net, where I explore Japanese and Japanese-inspired games from yesterday and today, and videopackgames.wordpress.com, which aims to catalogue the small but well-formed library of the Philips G7000 Videopack computer, also known as the Magnavox Odyssey 2. You can also support my work on Patreon or buy me a coffee. You can find links to do both down in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.